Welcome to the Social Spreader on a Tuesday. I love just as the proliferation of sports gambling continues to increase, that we get a referee known as Tony Carrente, who does some extremely shady and, at minimum, unethical behavior. Whether or not you had Chicago to cover, which they covered. I do believe that they closed around a 240 money line, which is a pretty nice payout. I do believe that the Steelers were somewhere in the vicinity of minus 200. That's generally how those two things equal out. And regardless of anything that happened prior, for him to so brazenly do that is just so many of us saying, see, that's the problem. People like that, that's the problem. If you wanted to give him a flag, give it to him on the roundhouse. I had never seen that before. I did not know that an NFL player could celebrate on the defensive half of the ball with a roundhouse kick. But for you to not only deliberately initiate contact, essentially you pulled the James Harden on Cassius Marsh. Um, and look, I'm not going to sit here and say that Cassius Marsh perhaps didn't deserve to get some sort of 15 yards, but in the way that it happened, how you took it into your own hands and made it look at minimum fishy, at minimum, while the NFL is showing you advertisements and commercials of MGM, sports books, all this stuff. You pull this shit, Tony Carenti, what was this your attempt at the 15 minutes that you wanted? You've had a nice long career, but you know that no one knows who Tony Carente is until now. And you initiate the contact. You essentially, as I said, James Harden, Cassius Marsh, and then was that a pose? Was someone gonna paint that one for you as some sort of a mural for the 15 minutes that you had? You do that at the end of a game that essentially swung the results of a game. What the hell's the matter with you? Good Lord, man. That's what we're trying to alleviate. And when it comes to how sports, how quote unquote moralists look at sports gambling and it being legalized, that's just fuel to their fire. That's just giving them ammo. That's in their eyes making them right. That you're somehow connected and that you wanted to sway the results of the game. So you essentially hip check a player that you wanted to penalize 10 minutes prior and you didn't for some reason, but then you do that and your justification is flimsy at best. Come on, man. I hate to quote ESPN, but come on, man. There's so many layers to this that you didn't. I'm so glad that now everybody knows who Tony Carrente is. Um, and if that's not if that's not a microcosm of how the season has progressed, as we're essentially at the midway point. And so let's do a little bit of a midway repoint recap, especially after Sunday. Nobody knows anything about football. Um, the fact that the Bills did what they did against the Jags, and the fact that if you look at who they've beaten thus far, um, hmm, the Bills might be the prototypical example of fool's gold. Um, and I know every single one of you had um, Denver going into Dallas and essentially skunking them. I'm sure everybody had that. I don't know about you, but no Derrick Henry, no problem was my outlook on the game as well. There were so many things that are absolutely mind blowing, but none more to me than this. On the aforementioned Bills Jags game, um, 97% of the money was on the Bills. On the also aforementioned Broncos Cowboys game, I believe somewhere in the vicinity of 93% was on the Cowboys. The only public play that cashed this week were the Chargers, where I believe 90, like somewhere like 98%. So that's really the only place where the books took it on the chin. The Rams had a lot of money on them too. I've said this in other shows. Find what the public is doing and go opposite. There's a reason why there are huge casinos and hotels way out in the middle of nowhere. And to illustrate the point, let's take a look at college football too. Um, at this present time, and the irony is that they play this week with one of the largest spreads I've ever seen. New Mexico State is more lucrative than Alabama. East Carolina is 5-0 against the spread in their 5 games, in their last 5 games. Syracuse is 8-1 against the spread. UTSA, that's right, those pesky road runners from Texas San Antonio are also 8-1 against the spread. Nobody knows anything. No one knows anything. The fact that I'm squarely now, after this weekend, at 50%, completely even. This might be the greatest feat of my gambling career, that I am even, that my units are even. I am beyond perplexed at a lot of the things that have happened, but this is why it's so much fun, because New Mexico State right now has earned you more money than Alabama. And that over the last 5 weeks, the number one team in the country against the spread are the Pirates from East Carolina. Syracuse and UTSA have been ATMs, 16-2 against the spread. This is so much fun. So much fun this year. It's been absolutely crazy. And I know that a lot of people, because they've reached out to me, well, I know a couple who are really down, and my sympathies, friends. Some seasons, this is how it happens. In my opinion, this is one of the more unpredictable, obviously, but also just a very, it's a unique year from the perspective of the dogs aren't always alive, but sometimes they're barking, and they've been coming in the side door, coming in the back door in very weird ways. And so it's just been a very unorthodox year. And this is what makes it fun. This is what makes it very challenging. But the one thing that I did want to do real quick is I wanted to kind of circle back to yesterday in regard to the immunization um, um, status of one Aaron Rodgers, where there's no apparently to him there's no I in team, but there is one in immunized and liar. But I saw that a lot of people were upset, to say the least, in regard to how Aaron Rodgers is handling this in comparison to how he handled Colin Kaepernick. And look, we can, and I'm completely open to it. We can talk about societal issues, but nobody really wants to talk about that. We can talk about racism in this country, but I also don't think that anybody really wants to talk about it. I do. But you know what? I also want to bring some fun. I want to be entertaining. I'm going to be putting up a video now on my Instagram page, which I'm sure with everything on Instagram, I'm going to compete very well with everything else that's out there. But where Aaron missed the point and where he should have just shut up, um, any kind of a comparison, any kind of comparative shopping to what currently is going on within our societal issues in regard to Aaron's perspective of it, to bring Martin Luther King into it is beyond tone deaf and is beyond incredibly misreading the temperature of the room, considering what you did, which was less than nothing when it came to Colin Kaepernick, who, again, because Aaron is not going to be fined, he's probably not going to be suspended anything more than he does outside of the normal COVID protocols. He's going to continue to have a career, even though he has proven to be a kook, and an absolute kook who you could argue has adopted some QAnon adopted a little bit too much, or drank a little bit too much of whatever Kool-Aid he was drinking, because you can have all your views on the vaccine, on society, and God knows I have plenty of views on society. If anyone's ever interested in hearing them, I'd be glad to tell you. But for him to somehow morph this into some form of a bullshit freedom fighter, or even worse, fake patriotism, and make it larger than it truly is, to the point of you think you're being some sort of a societal figure like Martin Luther King, when again you sat out the Colin Kaepernick shit. Nah, dude, you don't get to do that, because what Colin Kaepernick has proven, aside from being right about everything, is the system is going to allow Aaron to continue to go. And if you can't see that, I'm kind of sorry for you, but you're probably missing the point about a lot of other things too. So just wanted to make sure that that was clear before we did some lines. So we're gonna look at 5 games tonight. 3 in the NBA, 2 on the puck, because as I have said before, who doesn't love getting pucked? So Milwaukee's playing Philly tonight, and Philly without Joel, they fell last night to New York. However, New York crushed Milwaukee, what, less than half a week ago. And so one of the things that I often do is I like to use similar foes. I like to use similar opponents within a reasonable amount of time. If you played a team a month ago that a team now is playing, that doesn't really apply. But if it's essentially the same week, New York, they so New York played Milwaukee, they won by 15. New York played Philly last night, they won by 7. That's an 8-point difference. And look, Philly hasn't had Harris, they haven't had Simmons. Joel was obviously out last night, but to lose by 7 to a good New York team, I think is actually, no moral victories here. That's absolutely fine, but I don't see that as too horrible. Whereas Milwaukee, who's still not, I'm sorry, where Chris Middleton and Brooke Lopez are still no longer playing. In fact, let me check that real quick. Yep. Those are 2 key components. And maybe the difference between Milwaukee losing to New York by 15 and Philly by 7. And right now, the spread, you can get Philly as a home dog. I think this is a little bit of an overreaction to the Joel Embiid news. I don't think that without Middleton and Lopez, that Milwaukee is 6 points superior on the road against these guys. I think Giannis is going to get his, obviously, but I think +6 as a home underdog is a pretty good lean. I'm looking at him. I'm looking at him right now. Philly 7-4 straight up against the spread. I'm sorry, 7-4 against the spread straight up. They're 8-3. They're 4-2 straight up at home. They've been so they have split against the spread at home. They're 3-3. Milwaukee's 3-2 against the spread. Could be that they're kind of due to get even. I'm a big believer of reverting to the mean, and so I do think that teams are trying to get to even on, certainly when it comes to against the spread. Over-unders are a completely different horse, because they can really be dictated by the style of that team. And if they get cold on offense, I mean, you're never going to sniff the over. And speaking of that, Milwaukee's 2-8 to the under, and Philly's 3-8 to the under. So maybe a good lean would be the under as well. The last 3, 2 out of the 3 went to the under. And right now the over-under is 216. That's pretty low. That's pretty low, but I do think because Philly is missing Joel, and because Milwaukee's losing out on Lopez and Middleton still, I think Philly in the under would be a pretty good lean. Right now, 70% of the money's on Milwaukee. I like that. 75 is on the under, so maybe people are thinking the same thing. But that's a good lean though. I think Philly +6 at home. You got 6 points in your pocket at home. I think that's a good one. The next game is actually Portland versus the Clippers. Um, the reason why we're looking at this one is because Portland's on a skid. They're 1-4 against the spread in their last five. The last time that the Clippers lost was October 29th, and that was against Portland. They actually got blown out. So they're going to be looking for revenge, and that's one of the rare wins that Portland has had since Halloween. They're 2-3. They recently beat Indiana. They also beat the Lakers. They did just get healthy, and right now the spread is Clippers -3 at home. So $5. So normally when a home team is simply at home, they get 4 points when it comes to basketball. So that something's fishy there. And usually when I smell fish, I tend to, or at least stinky fish. I love fish, but the stinky kind, I tend to go away. I tend to kind of sit it out. 75% is on the Clippers as well. Yeah. Last three of these teams have played. Portland's covered 2 out of the last 3. It's been 107, 103. You know what? 221 is actually the over-under. Portland's 3-7 to the under. Clippers are 3-6 to the under. And once again, all of this information is brought to you through me, through my friends at OddsShark. They don't know we're friends yet, but I like to think that we are, or maybe one day I could be a sponsor. And man, the Clippers are 2-3 to the under at home. Portland's 1-3 to the under away. And Portland's also 0-4 on the road straight up. So I think this actually might be a good underplay. This game has the, yeah, if I had to do anything in this game, I would lean on the under. I'd stay away from the spread. Something smells where the Clippers aren't even getting the 4. And I think it's because everyone on Portland is actually finally healthy. So Portland would be my lean on the spread, but I do think a good lean is to take the under. We're going to awkwardly transition over to the puck. And so the first game we're going to look at is Ottawa against the Bruins. Ottawa's 3-7-1. Bruins are 5-4. Generally speaking, this wouldn't be too much of a hot hockey game that I would want to look at. Aside from the fact that the Bruins are undefeated at home. They're 1-4 on the road, but they're 4-0 at home. The total's also gone under in 4 of their last 6 versus Ottawa. And so what I would do here is I'd probably look at the under. It looks like you can get some pretty good odds on the under just because the trend is that these teams do hit the under. Right now, they're pretty much at 500. Ottawa is 4-6 to the under. The Bruins are 4-5 to the under. Bruins are also 5-0 straight up in their last 5 when playing at home against Ottawa. So look at the money line. You're probably not going to get too much value there. You might not even get much value on the puck line either. Maybe take a stab at Ottawa because 2 out of the last 3 they have covered. And the Bruins are 3-6 against the spread. Hockey's tough, man. Hockey's tough because you can just get in the weeds a lot with all of the numbers. And as you can just see, I just perfectly illustrated that. This me looking at the lines are probably terrible radio. I'm not sure how good they are on video either. So the next game is Florida at New Jersey. Florida suffered their first outright loss last night, actually. Yeah, when they played the Rangers. Last 3 versus New Jersey, that's who they're playing here tonight. They have owned them. And they've outscored them by roughly 5-3. The over is hit 3 times, so definitely these teams have a propensity their last 3 to hit the over. Right now, the over/under is at 6, and it's pretty much minus 110 each way. Um, Good lean would be on the over. I also see that Florida's 8-4 against the spread, and New Jersey at home is 1-5. So right now, the puck line on Florida is good, is right around plus 160. So that's pretty good, reasonable value. I would also, I mean, right now they're minus 140 on the puck line. I'm sorry, on the money line. So maybe do Florida to win and to cover. That way you do probably cash if they win, because it looks like that they will. They've owned New Jersey. They're 2-0-1. Their last three, as I had said before, the last three between these two teams have hit the over. They've outshot them by 10 shots a game. So it's really kind of a mismatch with these teams. So maybe lean towards Florida to have some kind of a bounce back from last night. I think that's a good one to look at. And the next one is Carolina against Tampa Bay. Now, Carolina is 9-1. They're awesome as well. That entire division is just ridiculous. Tampa Bay is 6-3-2. And of course, Tampa's beaten them. They beat them 2 out of the last 3. It goes under. It's about 2.3 to 3.3. So the under has been hitting. Carolina's 9-1 straight up. Their last 10. Right now, you can get them at plus. Wow. Okay. So this is pretty much a money line play for me. I don't see either of these teams winning or losing by more than one. Um, so if I had to, right now you're going to get Carolina as the underdog. On the puck line, Carolina is minus 220, minus 220 to cover the spread. They are 7-3 against the spread. So but where's the value there? You're pretty much paying less than 50 cents on the dollar. Where if you think they're going to cover, you might as well try them to win, where you get at least plus 110ish. But this also might be one of those times where you just sit back and watch, because these are two insanely talented teams, probably worthy, and with what Florida's doing, to reorganize, reshift the divisions. That's how good all of these teams are. That the fact that they're in the same one is truly sad. And I'm sure that I'm really reaching a very large audience when I talk about hockey. Either way, I hope you enjoyed the insight on today's games, and good luck with your bets.